What is going on, gang? Thank you for joining me this morning. This is a roaming prepper. Merry Christmas to all of you, and I hope you have a great evening and a great Christmas day as well. Today's Saturday SitRep is going to be kind of straightforward. I'm not going to get too elaborate. It's going to be the same format I normally use. It'll be a compilation of released and public stuff, at least to my knowledge, from state, federal, corporate, and social and news media, just to give folks an idea of what's going on around the world. Some is good, some is bad. It's, as usual, a mixed bag. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone. I'm coming up on now 2 years I've been doing this, I think. And being able to share my thoughts and all my creativity with all of you and get the feedback and support that I have has been great. So for those of you who've been with me, especially those who've been with me for a longer time, thank you very much. Of course, always to my mods who take the time out of their day to jump into my chats and try to keep everyone between the buoys. Thank you all for doing that. I do appreciate it. Folks, we're going to start. I'm just going to keep it real simple because I don't want to get everyone stressed out. And in reality, there's not much we can do about the crap that happens overseas. So we're going to start with Africa. And I got a screen on my right, and then I'm reading from some papers. So if you see my eyes going back and forth, that's what's going on. So going with Africa, so the Democratic Republic of the Congo is saying that they're noticing that there's issues, security issues with their election. They've been struggling with this. I think I've even mentioned them a few times in the past. They're struggling with a lot of this kind of stuff, and this seems to be a recurring theme around the world. Like, known elections are being called into question, either because people are screwing with them or they're realizing that the elections are corrupt. Whatever the case may be, a lot of these folks are trying to get a handle on their communities. So I applaud them. I hope they do well. Gambia Navy officer is behind a failed coup attempt. Al-Shabaab kills 2 policemen, 1 civilian in eastern Kenya. This is according to Al Jazeera. Al-Shabaab fighters have attacked a police station in Kenya. Kenya is still dealing with the Al-Shabaab. And Somalia repatriates troops from Eritrea after protests over recruitment. That whole part of Africa, Central Africa, they've just been having all sorts of problems. And some of these stem back to the colonial days. So, tough break for these folks. I'm hoping they can get it sorted out. But again, none of those, as sad as they may seem, are going to directly affect those of us in Canada, the US, Australia, or even South America, Argentina, Panama, Brazil. These are more regional issues. In East Asia and the Pacific, jumping to that part of the world, Philippines are ordering strengthened military presence after Chinese activity near islands in question. The Chinese are not only disputing the Spratly Islands with the Philippines, but also with Taiwan, Japan, Vietnam, and Cambodia. So China's picking little arguments with all of these smaller nations. The Philippines is increasing its naval presence. And unfortunately, when they do that, that tends to increase the risk that people are going to get into it with each other. Hopefully that's not the case. This could just be puffery. But keep in mind, that's the same part of the world where a large percentage, like 30% of our shipping comes from, just that regional Southeast Asia area. So that can definitely screw up the supply chain if something pops off. Something to watch. I don't think it's something that's imminently going to get out of hand. Hopefully calmer minds will take over if something pops off, but we'll see. Fiji calls in the military after close election is disputed. Here's another nation. I haven't heard from them in a while. Also a disputed election. North Korea, Seoul reports North Korean hackers stole $1.2 billion in virtual crypto. Okay, one of my big gripes about crypto, and granted, you can, counterfeit physical money, but they're basically breaking into computer systems. North Korean hackers have stolen an estimated of 1.5 trillion won, approximately 1.2 billion US, in cryptocurrency and other virtual assets in the past 5 years. More than half of it in this year alone, in 2022. So again, this is reported by the Korea Times. These are the kind of things you need to watch for, because that could be very disruptive. With governments pondering this, central bank crypto, and this kind of stuff happens, who's to say it can't happen? Now, granted, we're kind of crypto as it is. Your bank accounts are online, etc. There are a lot of safeguards that were put in place after the Great Depression that have been removed by various presidents, not just this most recent one, over the last few administrations, that I'm not a fan of. So we'll see how that pans out. Moving to Europe, Germany and Kazakhstan. Germany denies claims that it plans to buy Russian pipeline oil next year and will instead turn to Kazakhstan for supplies. Europe's largest economy has long been dependent on Russian oil imports, but German's policymakers are set on challenging that as soon as next month. That's going to be interesting, because Kazakhstan stands south of Russia, and they're no fans of the Russians. They've been picking on each other. They have both pro-Russian and pro-Western Kazakhs. But that's going to be interesting, because if Kazakhstan is going to start supplying Germany and Europe with oil and gas, that's going to hurt Russia. So will Russia do something to Kazakhstan to disrupt that? Something to think about. I don't know where that's going to go. I need to read a little more about that. That one also from Yahoo News. In Europe also, Russia, Ukraine shelling attack injures 2 top pro-Russian officials in Donetsk. That's according to U.S. News and World Report. A former Russian deputy prime minister and a pro-Moscow official were injured when Ukrainian forces shelled the eastern city of Donetsk on Wednesday. Not a week ago, Russians fired a rocket attack on a building that was supposed to be housing a Ukrainian commander or some kind of politician, some bigwig. So what I'm noticing, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it as well, is these two countries are now targeting their attacks. They're getting very precise with this stuff. They're like, we're going to shell that hotel and that apartment building. As you recall, like last month before, a Russian advisor to Putin, his daughter was killed because they attacked and blew up the car she was in, thinking he was the one driving. So they killed her by accident. But again, you're seeing these targeted attacks. Also in Russia, and was one of the bases as of Friday, the 23rd, or Friday, 23rd of December, had a base right outside of Moscow had caught fire, and there were vague reasons as to why that had happened. So there are a lot of little weird asymmetric things going on we need to keep an eye on, because someone may kind of mess up. And that's one of my big worries. Also, Russia, Ukraine, Russian losses in Ukraine surpass 100,000, according to Newsweek. Ukraine's armed forces said Wednesday fighting killed 600 Russian troops in Moscow, reached another grim milestone. So again, we're only hearing Ukraine's side. We don't know what Russia's saying to their people. In reality, the truth is probably somewhere in between. Either way, there's a phenomenal loss of life that I don't think we in the further west, in Europe and in the US, Canada, really appreciate the magnitude of what's going on there. Like, this is freaking ugly. And the fact that it's, around Christmas time, the birth of our Lord and Savior, it's sad that these folks are enduring this during this time. Also, with these cold fronts coming through, imagine a cold front like where a lot of us are having right now this Christmas weekend, and you have no gas, oil, or power. Not because of the weather, but because an enemy has destroyed your grid. that's something to think about. That's an important possibility or potentiality for those of us who have a preparedness mindset. So keep that in mind, guys. These folks are going through a lot. This is nothing new as far as its disruption to the rest of us, as far as supply chain and food, right? There's still food pressure. There's still fuel pressure. I'm curious to see if the Kazakhstan redirect with Germany may alleviate the prices of oil and gas, despite what the green side is doing, trying to go to alternative fuels. Germany is not going to starve its people because, an environmentalist wants to, have everyone drive Teslas. They're going to take care of their people and then figure it out from there. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, a lot of interesting little weird moving parts. And I wonder if one of these is going to come back and speak words to us later. Okay, so moving on. Middle East, North Africa, and Iraq. Explosion in northern Iraq kills 2 soldiers, injures 3 from Associated Press, and really doesn't tell you what the hell happened, so that's kind of useless. Israel's most right-wing government agreed under Benjamin Netanyahu. A new government seen as the most right-wing in Israel's history has been agreed, sealing Ben Netanyahu's return to power. That's going to be interesting because Israel had kind of moved a little bit to the center again, and Iran and a few other countries started harassing with them, and lo and behold, they wound up moving right again. So we'll see where that goes. That's going to be interesting. In Jordan's truckers struggle to get by, sparking protests. Here's another country. This is reported by Al Jazeera, where we are seeing the truckers, the people who are involved in the commerce of daily goods, going to the streets, going to protest. According to this, the death of 4 police officers highlight the issue of fuel protests. And then it goes on in the conversation. There are other geopolitical issues they're having. Interesting stuff. And you guys remember last year I said, if it continues to get worse, you're going to see the smaller economies, then the bigger economies, and the mid-size, and then the large ones. It's going to start cascading out. And that's pretty much what happened. That's not me being some kind of fortune teller. It's just logically speaking, if you look at the way systems run, either business or engineering, when small systems start to fail, it starts affecting the bigger ones, and it tends to cascade. That's what we're witnessing here. In any case, India is re-implementing screening for COVID cases. Yay for them. Pakistan reporting issues with weather, slowing down flights. Not something that's going to really affect us. Now, Western Hemisphere, actually not a lot going on, which is kind of surprising. Argentina defends chaotic World Cup parade. I didn't even watch the parade, so I couldn't talk to that. Western Hemisphere, Colombia, oil tank in Colombia's Barranquilla explodes into flames. That very well could have been, an accident, an industrial error. It could have been sabotage. It could have been someone trying to steal something and screwed up and blew it up instead. Really nothing nefarious there. UN deputy urges countries to consider armed force for Haiti. Haiti is just not having great times. These folks are really struggling. Also regarding Haiti, this is from The Guardian, and the other one was from ABC News. The Guardian, again, Haiti receives first batch of cholera vaccines to tackle the deadly outbreak. Haiti has received its first shipment of cholera after the hurricanes hit Haiti. Unlike the Dominican Republic, Haiti was basically had all its infrastructure and its wealth and its resources taken by its European handlers back in the colonial days, and the country never really was invested in again. The hurricanes have been absolutely devastating to those folks. So cholera vaccine's been around for a hot minute. This is not some, new science. Go get your fifth booster. No, this is something that's been around and tested for 40, 50 years. In this case, yeah, they definitely need that. That vaccine does work. By now, they've pretty much figured out when it does and doesn't after it's been around for a while. But yeah, they need water. They need control. They lost control of their port the other day. Then they lost control of their airfield because of gangs and the mafia or whoever the hell's out there. Yeah, that's a preview of what can happen in an SHTF when things fall apart. So part of the reason I share these newscasts with you isn't to panic people, but you get lessons out of this. A lot of people think, it's going to be like The Walking Dead in the apocalypse. No, it's going to be a lot of infection and disease and vomiting and death from stuff like that. Cholera and sanitation and infection is going to kill way more people than bullets and knives and whatever else. Unless we just straight up nuke each other off the planet, illness will take a lot more people in a global catastrophe than any gang or shooting. Not that that won't happen, but cholera can go into a state or a city and wipe out 1 million people very quickly if you have no sanitation and you have no medicine, which we all take for granted. So these are good lessons to learn. This is why, understand how to treat illnesses with and without meds if you can get that competency. It's also good to be cognizant of what causes the cholera or what causes dysentery or what causes some of these other illnesses, because if you can get to the root cause, you don't have to deal with the illness later. Also, quarantine policies, right? Those do work when not done stupidly, which is what we witnessed in 2020 and 2021. When it's done systemically and with intelligence, you need to understand how these things work. But yeah, this is a really good example of what we could wind up dealing with. So prayers to those folks. That's really sad. And also in Peru, another illegal power grab. This one's getting exhausting because that seems to happen like every 6 weeks with these folks. Peru's been very unstable lately. So folks, as you can see, not a lot going on that really got my attention. That's me personally. You may have heard something that made you go, oh, wait a minute. Definitely encourage you to look up on your own, do your own homework, do your own research. But take these kind of news reports as a lesson. Like, hey, if that happened here, how would I deal with that? If we had a cholera outbreak in the U.S., if we had, somebody took out our grid, and we talk about the grid in particular a lot, but we don't talk about sanitation, the cholera, the diseases. I think sometimes as preparedness folks in the West, and when I say the West, I don't just mean the U.S. I'm talking Canada, Europe, South America, Argentina, Brazil. We tend to think the more glorified stuff, right? The EMP, the gangs and the zombies. But we don't think about, dying from diarrhea or dying from snake bites. That's not very sexy, but I promise you get bit by a rattler in West Texas and you don't get proper health, you're going to die or you're going to lose a leg. Which may be a death sentence in and of itself. So, these are the kind of things you want to think about. Get to understand where you live and where you will likely be, because that will help inform how you prepare. And if you walk away with anything, guys, just take those lessons. But a lot of hodgepodge stuff, nothing really earth-shattering that made me go, whoa, that's not good. That's ugly. So, folks, just pay attention to what's going on. Don't freak out. Read, learn, and if there's a follow-up on the Haiti infection, like how are they managing it? What are they doing? What's the Red Cross doing? How are they cleaning the water now that they're there? How are the vaccines working? Are they effective? Not effective? The smallpox vaccine works like a champ, but the one we came out with in 2020, not so much. So, and that was a weird science they used for that one, whereas the other science has been around for 100 years. So, yeah, how are they approaching it? Because if they're successful, that's a good template for you to say, okay, if something happens, these are lessons learned that they learn the hard way that I can benefit from. And that's what I want you guys to take away from this. Folks, I hope all of you have a happy, quiet, and blessed Christmas. And once again, thank you all for supporting me all these years, or all 2 years. It's kind of odd. I hadn't thought that I would ever do a social media platform. I had people tell me to do it before, and I was like, and I kind of did it on a whim, and I didn't think anybody would want to hear my crap, or much less I'd have things to talk about. But lo and behold, here we still are. So friends, family, y'all take care. Spend time with your loved ones. If nothing else, spend time reflecting on the blessings you do have. And I know some days we don't think we have a lot of blessings, but I promise you, some of you guys know it can always get worse. But I'd like to pray that it'll get better, and hope it does get better. Being prepared, understanding how things work, and not getting caught flat-footed by things going on in the world that suddenly affect you because you're paying attention and you understand the context of what's going on. That can make life a lot more peaceful for a lot of us. So, folks, you guys have a great weekend. Have a great holiday season as we wrap up the Christmas New Year week. But until next time, God bless, Godspeed. I hope to see you later in Christmas week if I do jump on a live or another video. Other than that, I'm signing out. You guys take care. God bless, and Merry Christmas.